Every soul arrives on earth with a divine purpose, but few truly awaken to it. The world grows louder, filled with distractions that make us forget who we are, divine extensions of the Creator. Yet within certain hearts, a quiet whisper persists, "You were meant for more." This is not coincidence. This is calling. This is God's message for those who are ready to listen, the chosen ones. Before every divine calling, there comes a silence, a sacred, uncomfortable stillness that feels like being left alone in the dark. Many of you have been in that place, the space where prayers seem unanswered, signs disappear, and direction feels blurred. You start to ask, why has God gone quiet? But what if the silence isn't a void? What if it's a signal, the sign that something greater is forming beneath the surface? When you're chosen for something extraordinary, you are not immediately given instructions. You are first given isolation. It's a divine filter, not a punishment. Because in the silence, distractions lose their grip. The noise of the world fades, and your internal voice, the one that's been buried under opinions, expectations, and fears, begins to emerge. That's where true awareness starts to take form. This is where the psychological and spiritual journey meet. The mind is constantly looking for patterns, for certainty, for outcomes. But the soul understands something deeper. It knows that growth often happens in uncertainty. The stillness between one season and the next isn't stagnation, it's incubation. The seed that breaks open in darkness doesn't resist the soil, it trusts the process. The silence, therefore, is not the absence of divine activity, it's the preparation of divine alignment. Many people lose faith during these silent periods because they confuse absence with neglect. But the truth is, silence is often the teacher's most effective tool. Think about it. In every great lesson, there's a moment where the teacher stops talking. Why? Because now the student must demonstrate what they've learned. Life works the same way. When God stops answering immediately, He's inviting you to apply what's already been revealed. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting your fears, your attachments, your impatience, so you can see what still needs refining. There's a deep psychological principle here. Silence forces confrontation with the self. It strips away dependency and reveals whether your belief is rooted in faith or in comfort. Most people pray to feel better, but the chosen ones learn to pray to see clearer. And clarity, more often than not, is born in solitude. The more still you become, the louder divine wisdom begins to sound. It's not that God wasn't speaking, it's that your world was too noisy to hear Him. The ego hates silence because silence exposes it. When there's no external validation, no applause, no movement, the ego begins to panic. It whispers, "You're forgotten." But the spirit understands that being hidden is not the same as being ignored. It's being refined. Before any great unveiling, there is always a period of obscurity. The artist sketches in private before revealing the masterpiece. The seed grows in darkness before touching light. You are no different. The chosen ones must learn to sit in silence without losing their sense of direction. Because the silence before the calling is not empty, it's full of unseen preparation, full of divine intention. Every unanswered prayer, every moment of waiting, every quiet night, all of it is orchestrating your transformation. And when the time comes, when the silence finally breaks, you'll realize that it wasn't a pause at all. It was a pulse, the rhythm of something sacred preparing to move through you. So if you find yourself in a season where everything seems still and God seems distant, don't fight it. Don't rush it. Sit with it. Listen. Observe the thoughts that rise in the quiet. Because within that silence, the next version of you is being formed. And that version will not only hear the calling, it will be ready to answer it. Remember this, God's silence is never rejection, it's recognition. He is trusting you with stillness because He knows you can handle transformation. When the teacher is silent, the test has begun. And when you pass that test, your voice will no longer echo, it will resonate. Every chosen one carries a certain weight that others can't see or understand. It's not the kind of burden that comes from mistakes or misfortune. It's the weight of responsibility, of awareness, of being awakened before others. You start to feel life differently, sense energy differently, think in ways that make you feel out of place in a world that runs on distraction. And the truth is that discomfort is not random. It's evidence. It's the mark of the chosen. When you are chosen, your life will rarely follow a straight line. It will twist, stall, and at times feel like it's falling apart. But that's because your path isn't designed for convenience. It's designed for refinement. You don't go through the fire because you're cursed. You go through it because your purpose requires purity of spirit, mental resilience, and emotional depth that can only be forged under pressure. Iron sharpens iron, but only after friction. Gold shines, but only after fire. Psychologically, most people seek comfort because comfort gives them a sense of control. But growth begins when that illusion of control is stripped away. The chosen ones are often thrown into experiences that break the illusion of who they thought they were. Everything you once relied on, people, plans, identity, starts to shift. That's not failure, that's transformation. You're being trained to operate from the inside out, not the outside in. There's a deeper philosophy behind this. Every spiritual tradition teaches that before a soul is elevated, it must first be emptied. That emptiness is not loss, it's space being made for a higher frequency of understanding. You can't carry divine wisdom while still being full of human noise. So when you feel like everything is being taken away, the relationships, the opportunities, the sense of certainty, remember, God never subtracts without a reason. He's clearing what can't walk with you into your next season. If you've ever wondered why your battles are so personal, so relentless, it's because the mission assigned to you carries power. Darkness doesn't waste energy attacking what isn't a threat. The fact that you've been tested repeatedly means there's something in you that can't be replicated, a light that can't be extinguished. The chosen path doesn't make you better than others, but it does make you more accountable. The more awareness you carry, the more responsibility you bear for how you use it. Philosophically, pain can become a teacher if you stop resisting it. Every emotional wound, every disappointment, every season of waiting, all of it carries encoded wisdom. When you begin to observe your pain rather than react to it, you start to see patterns. You start to recognize that nothing was wasted. The tears you cried were cleansing your perception. The rejections you faced were redirections in disguise. The losses you endured weren't endings. They were beginnings in unfamiliar clothing. The mark of the chosen is not perfection, it's perseverance. You continue to rise when logic says you shouldn't. You keep showing up when no one claps. You maintain your integrity when shortcuts tempt you. That's the quiet strength of those who are truly chosen. They don't need recognition to remain consistent. They understand that divine timing operates outside human approval. And when the time finally comes for your unveiling, the very people who misunderstood your struggle will witness your purpose, because everything you endured in private was never meant to stay hidden. The lessons you learned in solitude will become the light that guides others out of darkness. So, don't despise your storms. Don't resent the weight you carry. It's proof that you are trusted with something sacred. The fire that once felt like punishment was actually your initiation, your soul's reminder that it was never ordinary. You are not being broken, you are being built. And when you rise from that fire, you won't just survive, you will illuminate. There comes a time on the journey of every chosen one when life begins to take people away, quietly, sometimes suddenly. You wake up one day and realize that the circle you once belonged to no longer feels like home. The conversations that once interested you now feel hollow. The people you tried to please begin to fade from your path. It's unsettling at first, almost painful, because human nature is wired for connection. But what you must understand is this: before elevation comes separation. This is not punishment, it's precision. When God is preparing you for higher purpose, He cannot allow you to remain entangled with energies that dilute your direction. Separation is the sacred surgery of the soul. It removes what can no longer travel with you. You don't lose people because you failed them. You lose people because you are no longer vibrating on the same frequency. And when your frequency rises, not everyone can breathe at that altitude. Psychologically, this process feels like rejection. The ego interprets separation as loss, as if something went wrong. But the deeper truth is that separation is alignment. You cannot attract what's meant for your future while still being anchored to your past. Every person in your life represents a mirror, a reflection of who you were at that stage. When you evolve, those mirrors shift. Some people will recognize your transformation and rise with you, but most will only recognize the version of you that benefited them. And when that version fades, so will they. This is where many chosen ones struggle, between the desire for belonging and the necessity of becoming. Loneliness starts to whisper that maybe you took a wrong turn. But remember this: isolation often precedes revelation. Just as the caterpillar disappears into its cocoon before it becomes the butterfly, you too must withdraw from the noise of the crowd to hear the clarity of your calling. The separation isn't about leaving others behind. It's about returning to yourself. There's a philosophical layer to this that's often missed. The ancient masters taught that solitude is the furnace where identity is purified. Only when you can stand alone without fear do you truly understand the strength of your spirit. Many seek connection out of dependency, but the chosen learn connection through wholeness. When you are whole, relationships become additions, not anchors. You no longer seek to be completed, you seek to be aligned. Think of it this way: the higher a tree grows, the deeper its roots must go. In your separation, God is deepening your roots, grounding you in patience, clarity, and discernment. Because when your season of visibility comes, the weight of your purpose will require stability. Without solitude, your foundation would crack under pressure. So while others may see your quiet season as isolation, heaven sees it as preparation. During this time, resist the urge to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone a defense for your growth. The higher path always looks confusing to those who haven't walked it. Stay silent if you must, but stay true, because those who are meant to walk beside you will recognize your frequency without needing an explanation. They will not question your silence, they will understand it. In separation, you will discover something extraordinary: peace. Not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from knowing you are exactly where you need to be, even when it feels uncertain. You start to realize that solitude isn't empty, it's full of insight, full of connection to something greater, full of unseen movement that will one day reveal its purpose. So if you find yourself walking alone, do not despair. You are not being abandoned, you are being advanced. The path of the chosen one was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to be clear. Walk alone for a while, because the light you're carrying was never meant to fit into everyone's world. It was meant to lead the way. Every challenge that has come your way carried more than just pain. It carried information. But most people never decode it because they react emotionally instead of observing consciously. The chosen ones, however, learn to see differently. They understand that every wound, every delay, every disappointment hides a lesson that can only be revealed when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Pain is the most honest teacher life will ever send. It strips away illusions, tears down comfort, and confronts you with parts of yourself that you've ignored. The world teaches you to avoid it, to distract yourself, to escape it. But growth begins when you stop running, When you sit in the discomfort long enough to listen, pain transforms from punishment into guidance. It's the moment your awareness shifts from victimhood to mastery. From a psychological view, this is how transformation truly happens. The human mind is conditioned to avoid what feels unpleasant, yet avoidance only reinforces fear. When you resist pain, it persists. But when you face it, when you look into it without judgment, it begins to reveal its message. The tension you feel in your heart, the anxiety in your mind, the heaviness in your spirit, these are not enemies. They are signals, pointing you toward what needs healing, what needs release, and what needs to evolve. Philosophically, pain is refinement. The same way heat purifies metal, life's trials purify your inner world. The goal isn't to eliminate discomfort, but to extract wisdom from it. Every obstacle you encounter has two layers, the external event and the internal revelation. Most focus on the event, never realizing the event was only the delivery system for transformation. What matters is the inner response, how your perception shifts, how your patience expands, how your faith deepens. Think about it. How many times did what you thought was a setback eventually redirect you towards something far greater? The relationship that ended taught you self-worth. The failure that embarrassed you revealed resilience. The rejection that broke you open made room for authenticity. In hindsight, you see that what felt like destruction was actually redirection. But the insight only comes once you stop resisting the lesson. Spiritually, the chosen ones are not spared from pain. They are trained through it. You cannot lead others out of darkness if you have never faced your own. You cannot speak about light if you have not walked through the shadows of your own doubt. God doesn't waste pain, He repurposes it. And the reason your trials felt so personal is because your mission is personal. You were being shaped for the kind of wisdom that only experience can teach. The deeper you go into your pain, the more compassion you develop. You stop judging others because you've seen what it takes to heal yourself. You stop comparing journeys because you realize everyone is carrying unseen battles. This awareness gives you peace, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you now understand that struggle itself is a sacred form of education. So the next time you encounter hardship, pause before you label it as bad. Ask yourself, what part of me is this trying to strengthen? What truth is being revealed here? Because when you shift from reaction to reflection, pain loses its power to destroy and gains the power to transform. Remember, the chosen ones don't escape pain. They evolve through it. And once you learn to extract the wisdom hidden inside every wound, no experience is wasted, and no suffering is meaningless. God hides your greatest lessons inside what hurts the most, because only through pain do you awaken to the strength you've always had. There comes a moment when every chosen one realizes that the answers they've been searching for are no longer outside of them. Up until that point, you might have been chasing guidance, asking for signs, waiting for confirmation, as if clarity had to come from somewhere else. But awakening begins when you stop reaching outward and start listening inward. The realization is simple but profound. God never left you. He simply moved His voice from the sky into your spirit. This is what I call the moment of inner awakening, when awareness shifts from dependence to embodiment. You stop praying for strength and begin recognizing that strength is already part of you. You stop asking for light and realize that you are the vessel through which light expresses itself. The divine doesn't operate as a distant force. It operates as a living consciousness within you. That's why you feel it so personally, because it speaks your language, it moves through your intuition, it communicates through the rhythm of your own heart. From a psychological perspective, this marks the transition from external validation to internal sovereignty. For most of life, we've been trained to look outward for worth, to let approval define us, to let outcomes control our emotions. But when you awaken, you begin to see that peace and purpose are not earned. They're accessed. The more you align your thoughts with truth and your actions with integrity, the clearer that inner voice becomes. It's never loud or dramatic. It's calm, steady, and unwavering. Because truth never shouts, it resonates. Philosophically, awakening is remembering. You are not acquiring something new. You are reclaiming what has always been yours. The soul doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be remembered. That's why certain teachings, certain words, certain experiences don't feel new to you. They feel familiar. They awaken something ancient inside you. When the divine awakens within, you begin to live differently. You no longer chase outcomes. You create alignment. You no longer fight for control. You trust in flow. You no longer beg for purpose. You embody it. This realization is also deeply empowering. Once you recognize that the divine lives within, you understand that nothing external can truly overpower you. Circumstances may shake you, people may misunderstand you, life may test you, but the center of who you are remains untouchable. That center is your connection to God, and it's unbreakable. This is why the chosen ones move differently. They may walk through chaos, but they are not consumed by it. Their calmness is not ignorance, it's mastery. Now, this kind of awareness doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds through consistent self-observation, discipline, and silence. You begin to notice your reactions, question your assumptions, and realign your energy. You start living consciously, no longer reacting to every emotion, but responding from a place of awareness. That's how the inner world begins to stabilize, and when it does, the outer world begins to follow. Because the external is always a reflection of the internal. Spiritually, this is the ultimate liberation, realizing that the same divine intelligence that holds the stars in place also breathes through you. You are not separate from creation. You are an expression of it. And when you live from that realization, you stop trying to prove yourself. You start expressing yourself. Life becomes less about seeking and more about serving, less about surviving and more about shining. So when doubt whispers that you are alone, remember this truth. God didn't abandon you. He relocated the conversation. You are now both the listener and the messenger, both the student and the vessel. You are the continuation of the divine word in motion. At some point, you begin to realize that everything you've gone through, every silence, every test, every heartbreak, and every awakening has been leading you to this single moment of recognition. It's the point where understanding becomes embodiment, where all the lessons converge into clarity, and in that clarity, a voice begins to speak, not from the sky, not from the world, but from deep within your own being. It's calm, yet powerful, simple, yet absolute. It says, you are ready. This is what I call the final note, the divine message to the chosen ones. It's not written in books or revealed through visions. It's realized through experience. You've lived your way into it. Every step that once felt random now reveals its purpose. Every unanswered prayer now makes sense. God's silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. He was waiting for you to evolve into someone who could understand not just his words, but his ways. Psychologically, this moment is the full integration of the self. The mind, body, and spirit align. The constant conflict within you begins to dissolve because the search for meaning turns inward. You stop chasing identity through external roles, through status, validation, or success, and begin to live from inner alignment. You don't need to be told what to do anymore. You begin to know. And that knowing is not arrogance. It's awareness. It's the quiet authority that comes from walking through pain without becoming bitter, from facing loss without losing faith. Philosophically, this is the highest form of awakening, the realization that the divine has always been expressing itself through human experience. The Creator doesn't exist apart from creation. You, the listener, the seeker, the struggler, are part of that expression, and when this truth anchors in your consciousness, fear begins to lose its hold. Because how can you fear a journey that was never against you, only for you? The final message God leaves for the chosen ones is not a command. It's an awakening. It's an invitation to live as an embodiment of what you've learned. To move through life with awareness, not anxiety. To lead through example, not ego. To serve, not from obligation, but from overflow. You were never meant to escape the world. You were meant to illuminate it. The darkness you once resented is now the very contrast that makes your light visible. Spiritually, this stage is not about seeking miracles. It's about becoming one. You begin to realize that transformation isn't something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you. Every act of kindness, every word of wisdom, every moment of patience becomes a reflection of divine consciousness at work. You are no longer waiting for signs. You have become the sign. There's a quiet confidence that comes from understanding this. You don't need to rush anymore because you trust timing. You don't need to compete anymore because you've realized abundance isn't limited. You don't even need constant reassurance anymore because your peace is not conditional. It's rooted. You've entered the space of knowing, and that knowing can't be taught, it must be lived. So when you hear that inner voice whisper again, you are ready, don't doubt it. Don't question if you've done enough or learned enough. Every scar, every silence, every separation was your training. The world doesn't need another perfect person, it needs awakened ones. Those who've learned to transform pain into purpose and still choose love after everything. If you are hearing this now, it's because you are one of them. You are the reminder, the reflection, the living message of divine intelligence at work. This is the final note, not the end, but the beginning of conscious creation.